Welcome to the Fulfilling the Mission podcast. I'm Brandon Isle with BYU-Idaho Radio. This podcast is all about disciples of Jesus Christ and how students, faculty, department chairs, college deans, they're all fulfilling the mission of BYU-Idaho. And with me today, I have from the Department of Mechanical and Civil Engineering, Adam Dean, and Braden Williams. He's a student, he's a senior in the program. Thanks for joining me here today.
Thank you.
So this is a cool department, Mechanical and Civil Engineering. You have two majors. Why don't you just kind of dive into what these majors offer and what students can expect if they sign up for this major?
A lot of homework. They expect a lot of homework. So we have our focus is mechanical and civil engineering. So we have those two bachelor programs. We do have like a CAD certificate and an engineering minor, but it's by far almost all of our students are in mechanical or civil engineering.
Yeah. And those are two distinct things, mechanical and civil engineering. I think a lot of people who are not STEM people maybe go, it's all engineering, what's the difference? Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, there's a core where they're the same. I mean, we start at the same base of calculus and physics.
A lot of math.
Yeah, a lot of math. And then we diverge pretty quickly mid-sophomore year. And from there, yeah, very different fields.
Yeah, what are some examples of the fields that maybe mechanical engineer might go into versus civil engineering?
Civil engineering is a little easier to define. We have focus on 4 areas. Transportation, so any kind of roads or bridges, stuff like that. Water, get clean water in and dirty water out. Geotechnical is kind of like foundations and soils. And then our last is structural, so like the actual building parts of steel, wood. There's also environmental. We don't have a huge focus on that in our civil engineering program. Mechanical, that's very, very broad. It's almost anything. Anything that's made, it feels like it's got a mechanical engineer that had some part of the design. I mean, it goes everything from cars and rockets to the chair you're sitting on. Right. So it's a little harder to define in categories like that. But aerospace, robotics, mechatronics, thermal systems like engines or rockets, you know. I could say all the really exciting things, but almost anything that needs to involve somebody that do a little bit of math and physics and science in order to figure out how to design something to work, to meet some desired function.
Yeah, and Braden, you are a mechanical engineering student,
That's right.
Senior
Yep.
This year. What got you interested in this program in the first place?
You know, that's a great question. I think it all starts when I was about 4 years old. My grandma found me taking apart an oven, her oven, with an electrician. So
She's like, what are you doing?
So I've always kind of been interested in just any mechanical systems. I'm interested in designing, building stuff, and I love math. And so putting all those together just makes sense to do mechanical engineering.
Yeah, when you started classes, were you just like, this is my home?
Yeah, there was no doubt. There was no question about what I wanted to do. I think in the 8th grade, I had decided this is what I want to do. We were taking a short quiz, I think, of one of my classes about careers and whatnot, and it just checked all my boxes. And so ever since then, I felt good about it, and I still do. So
yeah, oh, that's so fun. I know a lot of students kind of major hop, but to know what you want to do from 8th grade or even 4 years old.
I was very grateful that I didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
so
that's incredible. Yeah. Do you find that you get students like this a lot in your program?
Oh, you know, it's a good mix. I mean, we get a lot of students that want to change into mechanical engineering. It takes them a while. I was even one of those. But then, yeah, we have a few that just grow up saying, my dad was an engineer, I know an engineer, or I've always tinkered with stuff and someone told me I should be an engineer, and they're just passionate from the beginning. So it's a good mix.
Yeah. Now, your background's mechanical engineering as well.
Yes.
I know you started here on campus. Was it Ricks College or BYU-Idaho, or kind of transition?
Ricks College, and I just looked up my face in the old Ricks yearbook out there just a minute ago. Yeah.
So you started here, went to USU, went to Penn State, all mechanical engineering. So you've known you love this forever.
Yeah, I had a stint in architecture.
Oh. You strayed a little bit?
Yeah. I thought I wanted to be an architect, and then after a little bit, after my mission changed to, I didn't know what a mechanical engineer was. My brother somehow got into the program, and I thought, well, what's mechanical engineering? And I found out it was a lot of physics and math was the core. And I thought, well, I always kind of liked those, so I tried it out and turned out to love it.
Yeah. What do you tell students as they get into the program that they should be prepared to learn and do, and all the homework that they're going to have to do?
Yeah, the math and science, I keep bringing that up, but that's a problem with engineering fields is there's a really...
The opportunity, not the problem, right?
Yeah, well, I try to warn them, I guess.
Yeah.
I want them to be upfront. Like there's this kind of hill you have to get over to get through those hard sciences before you can get to the engineering, just because it has that foundation. But what to expect, and a student's generally interested in creating and designing, but they're not afraid to go through that challenge of the math and the science, then they'll usually be very successful. And there's other majors if they don't want to go through that. We don't want to sound like snobs either, like if you can't cut it in the sciences, you don't qualify. But that's the idea of an engineer is we don't want someone that's just going to build something and then cross their fingers and hope it works. It needs to be founded on principles of science and physics. And so we need students that are willing to go through those principles and understand them so they can leverage them in their courses. And the other thing I usually try to warn them about is the homework. I joked about it at the beginning, but it is challenging. There's a lot of homework. I remember my wife, after we were newlyweds, she had her homework done in maybe like 15, 20 minutes. At the same time, I had one problem.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, sweetie, I got so much more. I'm really sorry. And we joke that it's going to be really, really hard, but it is. It's a challenge. And we don't want to put anyone in despair, but a lot of times people enjoy that problem-solving process. Even though it's a means to an end to graduate, but if you're able to enjoy those tough challenges, even in those physics and science courses, then that's a good indication you may like engineering because you like to solve those kind of problems.
Yeah, there's a big payoff when you solve those problems.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that in your classes as you've done some projects?
Yeah, so a lot of the times the homework, of course, is very difficult. It kind of pushes you to your limits, but it's really satisfying, like you were saying in the end. Having the feeling of if I completed it, I was able to do it, and I understand it. And that to me is the most satisfying part of it all, is that, man, I took this really complex problem, broke it down into, finite pieces, and then I understand it and I can apply it now. So
yeah. Can you give me some examples of projects maybe you do as a class or groups or individually that you've been able to do with your classes?
Yeah. Let's see. For example, right now I'm in a heat transfer class, and so you kind of study how heat works really between different materials and whatnot. And we're actually designing some fins right now, and I'm working by myself, unfortunately. It's always better sometimes when you can work with groups, but yeah, it's a challenge. I have so many parameters to work with, and got to be able to come up with solutions on my own. So
there's a heat transfer class.
Yeah.
I think outside of mechanical engineering, people go, what does that even mean? Can you kind of describe what this class means?
What the class is?
Yeah, what is this heat transfer like? How do fins fit into heat transfer?
Right. So for example, there's a lot of different mechanical processes that require you to cool down systems, and so we want to be able to figure out, well, how do I get this system down to this certain temperature? Right, and so there's a lot of optimizing involved when it comes to just to engineering in general. But heat transfer really just is the study of how we can get things to certain temperatures and whatnot. So I don't know, that might be an inadequate explanation that I'm certain other professors maybe might be able to tune into.
You're in the middle of it right now,
I know.
so we'll have a better answer here in a few weeks. But no, I think that's a good answer. Heat's a form of energy, right?
Yeah.
And usually stuff that a lot of times we don't want heat. Sometimes we do want heat. Other times we don't. We got to get the heat out. Other times we want to get the heat transferred to somewhere. So that's what that class is about, is the transfer of heat between objects or mass.
He said it better.
He said it better. I know there are other classes like fluid dynamics and things that people may not understand at first, but as you build the space, as you said, you get into these and they start to explore maybe their interests. Is that the hope?
Yeah, and that's what's really hard when a student wants to know, what field of mechanical engineering should I go into. Learning in the course is usually the best way. It's, like civil, you can really easily kind of define those 4 areas, and by exploring in these courses, you can know which area you want to maybe go into. But mechanical engineering is so broad. I have students come all the time to my office and say they want to do aerospace. Aerospace is just kind of like this top end NASA, SpaceX stuff, and
rocket science.
And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do there? Do you want to, build the thing? That probably means you want to go into structures or composites. Do you want to actually work on the engines or the jet propulsion or something, and that maybe fluid dynamics or heat transfer? There's all sorts of different areas you can get into, but still in aerospace.
Yeah.
And so, getting into those courses is really a good place to learn. It's kind of unfair for me to say it's hard to describe, but,
But as you learn, you really, the Spirit touches us in different ways and helps us understand what direction we should go in our lives. Have you seen that in students, and have you felt that in your life and as you've taken classes?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with mechanical engineering up until this past semester, where I was frantically trying to decide what do I do with all of this.
I'm a senior, I'm almost done.
Yeah. And I just kind of looked back on the courses and I realized, man, I enjoyed this course more than I did this. So I think I would enjoy doing this for, I don't know, the rest of my life, or even just for a little while, and kind of explore that. So I kind of did that with thermodynamics. That was kind of my cup of tea. And so I looked into energy systems. I've been applying to graduate programs that specialize in energy systems. And so, yeah, looking back on the courses, they really helped me to decide what it is exactly that I want to do. So,
yeah, and I hear Texas A&M.
That's the hope. We're still waiting for a response, but I just applied and hope to hear back.
That's
I guess.
exciting. Yeah, fingers crossed. Now, what have you seen as students go? Are you seeing those light bulb moments and the Spirit kind of come in and testify that, yeah, you should do this thing?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the Spirit definitely will help. And I have a lot of students want to know right away at the beginning of the program, like, I'm not sure what I want to do, and they worry about it, and we try to calm them down. Just say, one, find something you enjoy in the courses, and two, you may not actually go into that. You may find out you really enjoyed this one thing, but then end up in an industry that is different, and maybe it'll come back around. I mean, I was one of those where I really enjoyed certain parts of physics, and then got into my bachelor's and even my master's program in one direction, and then completely pivoted in my PhD back to my original thing that I liked. And so we always kind of want to know the future, and we get a little anxious if we can't figure out our plan. But I try to help students just be a little calm and say, yeah, the Spirit will help you. The Lord will open doors. You'll find that He's giving you resources that you can leverage and use in your future career. And if you're kind of listening and, trying to do what's best, the Lord will help you, and you'll find out that little niche area that you want to get into, or do all of them. Jump around, it's okay.
Yeah.
I have something to add to that.
Yeah,
That's
go ahead.
all right. My wife has always told me, the Lord is never going to lead you down a path that's a dead end. Like, He has a plan for you. So if you just keep putting Him first in whatever you do, even if it's maybe not the best choice, or maybe if, you might not like it as much as other things, just trust in God, and He's going to get you through whatever, and He'll lead you to happiness. So.
We hear about this decade of decisions sometimes, and our devotional speakers talk about these things a lot. And you really, it's hard. You're making these big decisions right now in your life, but the Spirit really does guide you. That's important to remember. I really like to talk about projects and the things that your classes do. I know you have obviously your book learning, but then your projects, and then internships. And is there a capstone as well? Can you kind of lead me through those different things and how they build on each other?
Yeah, Brady, you're in capstone right now,
Yep.
right? And we were just talking before this about his project for mechatronics, a class that I designed, but he didn't take from me.
No.
He avoided me. But yeah, we tried from the beginning to have some projects. We actually are changing our program a little bit now to make it even earlier, more freshman design course. So that'll be coming here in the next year or two. But yeah, a lot of our courses have kind of these design projects. My favorite is my mechatronics class, where they have to, it's like a little robotics kind of project. They have to program something that uses a motor and a sensor and like a display or a little input, like a keypad or buttons or something. And that's always fun to see. And then they build up to where we do like more product design, where we have interview some customers, find out what needs they have and what little device or component or something that would be helpful that if we could create to help solve some problem. And then the capstone experience is now we bring in an industry sponsor. And so they work as a team to satisfy the needs of this industry sponsor, and they'll interact with the sponsor directly and then present at the end of the semester their solution.
Oh, that's cool. So you're in that class right now.
I am.
And how's it going?
It's going really well. We're developing a new modular yard equipment. So it's a machine that will be able to do just about everything you need for your yard. So it's really exciting.
So one machine like trimming the hedges and...
So
like,
most of it's just for the yard, just for the grass itself.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an aerator, you have a seeder, you have a tiller, like a rotor tiller, and then you also have a thrasher or a dethatcher rather. So it's going to be able to be fully integrated. You can do just about anything you want with it. Just switch out the tools and it works. So,
that's cool. Yeah. He's impressed. He's like,
I want to use it.
Can I get one? And that's the hope. And does this lead to internships, or I guess this is capstone, so does that help lead students to jobs?
Yeah. I mean, it often does. I mean, it's definitely a resume builder having that experience. It's almost an expected course, though. So I mean, almost all mechanical engineering graduates would have something like this. And it's part of our accreditation is to have some sort of experience, a culminating experience where they can kind of leverage the learnings that they had in the other courses and work as a team. But yeah, we do, in the mechanical engineering, we require 2 internships. In the civil engineering, we require 1. And we try to encourage students to start those as early as even freshman or sophomore year. Go out, get some technical work done, get your experience in your resume, and build on every opportunity to increase your kind of, I guess, experience. If you're just working in a machine shop at your base initial internship, that's great. But the next time, go work for an engineer. And if you have a chance to do a 3rd internship, go and have it even better. Because the idea is we want to prepare them for graduation and employment. So the closer we can get to that through the internships, then the more successful they'll be at getting hired.
Yeah. Do you have companies that are coming to BYU-Idaho and saying, we love your students, we want to hire them, or companies getting interns?
Yeah, we have a lot of companies that come often. The one that's really loves us for our low-level technical internship is Polaris. I think they come every semester.
Yeah, they do.
Try to steal like maybe 40 or 60 students every semester.
That's a lot.
They even built housing for our students.
Yeah.
And they give them, I don't know, bonuses.
Stipends.
Did you do a Polaris internship?
No, I didn't. No.
But yeah, they really love us. There's a few others that definitely come. But mechanical engineering is all over the place. So we have students that apply for jobs, and a lot just go back home. They come from all over the country or the world and then end up going back home and working in local areas.
Yeah. And I know students, when they get into programs, they're like, what's the payoff? Am I going to get a good salary when I find a job? What kind of range can they expect when they land that first job?
Yeah, between civil and mechanical engineering, I think they're both around like 75 to 80,000 a year starting out from graduation.
Yeah, the math pays off.
Hopefully.
And you're going to grad school. Do you have a lot of students that continue their education as well?
Yeah, I'd say about 15% of our students go to graduate school.
Yeah, that's a good number. Do you have specific schools a lot of them try to get into?
Yeah, BYU, U of U, Utah State, of course, but we actually, not to knock any of those, but we encourage students to go to Texas, go to Penn State, Purdue, Carnegie Mellon, or whatever. Just we have students get accepted all over the place. In fact, it was funny, about a year ago, Penn State called us up and they asked what was wrong if they offended us because we didn't have any applicants that semester. And so, we try to get them to go anywhere because they're pretty well accepted.
Yeah, well, that speaks volumes, though, that they want our students to at least apply, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty neat. Of course, this is the Fulfilling the Mission podcast, and we like to talk about students being disciple leaders. How do you help prepare students to be leaders in their homes, the community, and in their families? I said that twice: home, communities, and the church. There it is.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was thinking about the mission, how there's discipleship and then leaders, right? And I think discipleship's really hard to measure, and that's really hard to kind of ingrain. We can't really force discipleship, but I think we can model it. And so we really try to bring in faculty that are disciple leaders, that are examples of being disciples in their careers and in their daily life. And then we like to talk about what discipleship looks like in industry. And we can do that a little more intentionally, in the midst of doing fins and heat transfer. We can maybe talk about discipleship, and we can always improve. But there's also leadership too. And, there's the teamwork stuff that helps with leadership. There's leadership opportunities in societies. One thing I think of as leadership, though, is just being able to tackle tough problems, learning how to rely on the Lord for help. And forgive me, I'm emotional every time I get on the spiritual topics, but being able to trust the Lord that things will work out. And it's school's tough. We get a lot of students that really struggle, and by loving them and encouraging them and helping them, I think getting through challenges is a good time to lean on the Lord and learn that we are more capable than we think. That's, I think, a good point to learn in leadership and in discipleship. There's another aspect I was thinking of is, we talked about salary earlier, and the numbers are really nice, but I think there's a great quote. I should have looked it up. Someone said, food can't come from empty shelves. I mean, we need to be self-reliant in order to be able to give and serve. And having a stable foundation, a stable job, I think is really, really important. I think we want that across all the university, right? We want our students to have really good, stable jobs so that they're able to provide, one, for their families, and two, be able to be a resource for the church and their communities. And so I think that's another thing we're really trying to do is help them gain employment, stable employment, realize that they can get jobs anywhere. If there's a downturn in something, there's always going to be a need for engineers, and so we can comfortably rely on that. And hopefully through those, we're helping build, students into being disciples and leaders.
Yeah, thank you. How have you seen that in the classroom as a student?
I have. I can think on several occasions where I felt like our teachers really, really believed in us, and they inspired us to not necessarily focus on the topics of engineering, but always putting God first. On one occasion, I remember Brother Johnson, just mid class, he just kind of talked about how we should love others and treat others with respect. And for some reason, that stood out to me so much. Like, that was the one thing that stood out in class. And I just felt like what we're doing here at BYU-Idaho is trying to help people to become more like Jesus, first and foremost, and then secondly, become your engineer. And that was kind of a nice paradigm shift for me that I didn't realize at the time. And that was last year. So,
yeah. Well, thank you, Braden and Adam. Thanks for joining me on the Fulfilling the Mission podcast.
Thank you.